Welcome to episode 4 of April Anger 2026. Our first match is going to be between Kirby and Shulk. Now, I know a lot of you at home aren't doing the math, and to be quite honest, you don't have to. But this is the last episode of round 1. After this episode, we're going to be going to round 2. The cool thing about round 2 is that it's the round that comes after round 1. It's almost like counting is important. Kirby's landed a lot of up smashes against Shulk this match, which has only been going on for about 20 seconds, it looks like. And he's already hit like 6 or 7 up smashes, it feels like. Considering that smash attacks are usually one of the most punishable attacks, you usually don't just throw them out and hope they land. Some characters do have certain smash attacks that have... I'm a little surprised Shulk died there. Maybe because he went for the Monado switch. All the different Monados do change his stats in noticeable ways, shapes, and forms. But I don't understand why Speed Monado, which is the one he switched to, would launch him into the Blast Zone, unless he simply stopped DIing. That could do it. Kirby spitting out Shulk instead of trying to get the Monado Arts. Monado Arts is actually... no joke, one of the best moves in the game. It's not overpowered on Shulk. Did Kirby just save Shulk's life? Only to get the double dunk, so I guess he made it back. So, Monado Arts, fantastic move. For one move, it gives you 5 different forms that let you change your character's stats in unique ways. It's balanced by the fact that it's on Shulk, because without Monado Arts, Shulk is actually underwhelming in most categories. I suppose... is that Shulk's life? Nope, he has the Monado Arts to save him. Going with my point I just talked about earlier. So aside from having long hitboxes, everything about Shulk is underwhelming. However, once you give him Monado Arts, you can change stats about your character to be what you need in that specific moment. You can make your character more defensive, deal more damage, kill earlier. So when a character like Kirby gets Monado Arts, it almost breaks the game with how good it is, because Kirby's competitively viable on his own, and once he gains the ability to change basic stats about his character, oh, that almost killed from across the stage, then Kirby becomes absolutely amazing. Nobody else can copy abilities in this game, but if they could, you'd have a similar thing where Monado Arts is absolutely amazing. So it's a little bit of a shame that we didn't get to see Kirby copy that copy ability. However, he took 3 stocks without dying, so he seems to be doing fine. For our second match, we're going to be having Villager against Daisy. Going to be on Kalos Pokemon League for this one. Daisy with the first blood, landing in up air. Gets a footstool on Villager. If it was a human player, I'd say that was completely unintentional, because it actually put her out of the range to punish Villager with anything. And I'm pretty sure Daisy needs the double jump to actually get up onto those side platforms there. The side platforms here are a little bit higher than the platforms you'd normally see on Battlefield, which are sort of the standard platform height. Which is a little weird thing to say, because most platforms are actually higher than the Battlefield platforms. For the simple fact that it makes more sense to put a platform higher up than to put it even lower down, because the Battlefield platforms, their height is about the same height as some of the tallest characters in the game. So when you have a character whose forehead is slipping through a platform, if you decide to lower the platform down by 2 feet, then you've got a character who's, while standing on the floor, clipping through the platform. Which not only looks a little unpolished, but also doesn't have as much gameplay effect as you would hope for. Now, in custom stages, you can actually do that specific thing, and it's a fun little gimmick, but it basically just means that you have 2 floors you can stand on. Which, again, is fun, but not solid enough for the main game release. Basically, anything that's in the actual Smash Bros. Game that isn't user-generated content, it has just a higher standard. Daisy goes very low. She does recover. Sometimes you gotta wonder with these amiibo. Villager launches the Lloyd rocket, but actually gets smacked around it. Usually when that happens... So, how it normally goes is that Villager launches the Lloyd rocket, it spawns in front of him. It takes a little bit to explode and actually contact players, and that's probably because somebody in development figured out that if you just constantly spam Site B, it will just explode on people all the time. So thankfully we don't have an instantly exploding Lloyd rocket. Basically, it gives you just enough time to smack Villager anyway, and then the rocket blows up in your face, which is, again, not good, and not a trade you want to take if you can help it at all. But it puts it at a more balanced interaction than an interaction purely in Villager's favor. Daisy throws the turnip off the stage instead of upwards towards Villager. Don't know how much thought was put into that decision. Oh, there it looked like Daisy was actually able to get to the platform in a single full hop. She might have short hopped earlier then. Up smash is barely not high enough to hit through the platform. However, Daisy, with the float mechanic, makes her very good at just sitting below any surface, usually a platform, and just hitting people through it. Since the float keeps her elevation constant, it means she doesn't have to time a jump to try to pressure the opponent. She can just hang out underneath the platform. Especially since a lot of characters don't really have good ways of hitting someone on the other side of a platform. Villager steals a turnip, gets his balloons popped, but then one of the hitboxes clips him. Turns out that Villager's recovery, the up special, I think it's called Balloon Fight, because it's clearly modeled after the classic Balloon Fight game. It's actually pretty difficult to punish a Villager out of it. It is, of course, incredibly tempting to always go for popping both of the balloons. Most attacks can only pop one balloon at a time, and the move travels fast enough that Villager isn't hanging around off stage too long to let you pop both balloons. It is possible, but difficult. And when the balloons do pop, Villager actually gets a very short vertical boost, which usually means that Villager gets popped up to the ledge and can grab it anyway. This doesn't mean that the move is invincible by any means. You can't just hit Villager directly. However, with having such a large recovery option... Oh, and it looks like that's game. With the recovery that Villager has, he usually can make it back to the stage again without an issue. And up next we have Pit against Ryu. Two characters with a total of 6 letters split between them. Anything shorter and you start to get those really weird avant-garde naming schemes. Like naming a character No, or after a letter of the alphabet. I'm not counting the I think they're the Latin character set. Ooh, it's been a while since I had to learn that. The things you forget in... I almost said old age. Wow, that hurts. I'm not even old yet. Ooh, Pit falling past the ledge. Actually gets catching a stray from Ryu there with the back air. Ryu's back air is actually pretty good. It's just really hard to get to use. Since normally if you want to actually use the move, you have to run and then do something that... It has multiple terms. It's actually acknowledged in the game even. You run, you hold back the other direction, kind of to dash, but immediately jump, and that will flip your character around. And it seems that we actually got that mechanic specifically so that the Street Fighter characters, since they were the only characters with auto turnaround on the game's release, also Pit tech that? So that they could actually use back airs, because otherwise your character will automatically face the opponent. However, using the... I think it's called reverse aerial rush in some corners of the internet, you can use it to flip your character around in mid-air, specifically so that you can run at people and use a back air. Because otherwise you'd have to run at them and then jump backwards, which I guess you can still do sometimes, but the situations where you want to do that instead of jumping earlier and hitting them earlier, Yeah, there's a reason why they had to add the mechanic in Smash Ultimate. Basically, Smash Ultimate is the Smash Brothers game where controlling a character doesn't feel like an uphill struggle ever. Like, I'm sure if you're trying to go for some sort of insanely technical combo, yes, you'll find some difficulties. But in general, in Smash Ultimate, you can just do what you want to and it will work out. Meanwhile, in previous games, which I guess I will mention that the control of characters has gotten better with each progressive game. Even in Smash 4, if you wanted to turn around really quick, depending on what you were doing, depended on whether or not you'd be able to do that, they'd have mechanics such as perfect pivot, which would allow you to run in a direction briefly, turn around, and then use a forward tilt on someone. That was a skill that had to be learned, possibly even mastered. Whereas in Smash Ultimate, you just do the thing. You just turn around and hit them with the tilt attack, and it works. Up smash, not all the hits connected. That might have actually allowed Ryu to live. Kalos does have a pretty high ceiling on it. It's actually because in casual play, the stage has a lot more going on in the upper half of the stage area. But this is the hazards off rule set for the tournament. Pit somehow got a spike there. I didn't think it would come out that fast. Ryu uses the special cancel. Oh, I don't think it actually has a term. Ryu can cancel his normal moves into special moves. Which actually does mean that a lot of his aerials become incredibly deadly because he can cancel them into a Shoryuken. Or sometimes the Tatsumaki Senpukyu, that move, the spinning tornado leg. You can also cancel it into a Hadouken if you want, but that's not a killing move. Like, I'm sure someone's killed with it at some point, but with Ryu's not really struggling in most situations to kill people, unless he's struggling to actually land a hit. Otherwise, Ryu doesn't really struggle for power. It's one of the trade-offs for being a slightly slower and or harder to finagle character. Especially if you can get the command input on Shoryuken, it becomes incredibly strong. Ryu techs into Pit that actually left him vulnerable. A spike? And that's enough to kill this time. Ryu's gonna take that match. And in this corner, we're gonna have Greninja against Ike. I'm going to be on Kalos Pokemon League again. In case anyone's wondering about the rule set here, there aren't actually too many stages in the rule set. This is a... I keep calling it the tournament legal rule set. It's basically all the stages you'll see in tournaments. I believe there are some slight differences depending on, of course, what tournament you're comparing it to. For example, Smashville and the Kingdom Hearts stage, the Hollow Bastion, that's what it's called, they both have an incredibly similar stage layout and platform layout. One of the main reasons it's allowed in tournaments is simply for variety. To be quite honest, there's actually a problem in Smash 4 that there were only so many tournament viable stages. I think there were maybe 4. And 2 of them were Animal Crossing stages. And back in Smash 4, you couldn't listen to any song in the game on Battlefield or Final Destination. You could just listen to the Smash Brothers exclusive songs, essentially. So you got to listen to the Smash Brothers songs, and you got to listen to the Animal Crossing songs. At some point, we did get the Kirby 64 stage. I believe it's called Green Greens. Although I'll have to double check that because that might also be the name of another stage. But it does have the same platform layout to Battlefield, which again is a not... depending on if you have hazards on or off in Smash Ultimate as well. Having the same platform layout and the same, or at least incredibly similar, stage size and blast zone sizes. Having duplicates of a stage mostly affects, depending on what tournament you're playing in, the ban system, which is usually when a player gets to choose a stage they don't want to play on. and then their opponent gets to choose which stage they do play on, sort of to give both players input in what stage they're going to be fighting on. However, if you have 17 final destinations, then being able to ban one of them doesn't particularly make any sense. So despite Smash Bros. Ultimate having almost 100 stages in it, for tournament play, there really aren't that many. And this is a rule set that's slightly more restrictive than most, I'd say. Mainly in that we've removed duplicates similar to the, and that spike just killed Ike. And that wasn't a spike, that was a footstool. Still killed Ike though. Greninja's shield looking really tiny all of a sudden. Another footstool, Ike kept his jump. Doesn't kill Greninja with the recovery, but Greninja didn't tech or do a get-up option. There are multiple get-up options you can perform, and I'm pretty sure all of them have some form of intangibility on them to prevent you from being able to get hit. It is not complete, total, encompassing intangibility. Since you are getting knocked on the floor, it only makes sense that it's a disadvantageous position to be in. Greninja looking like he's going to go for something and then didn't. If he was a professional tournament player, he'd call it a mind game. Turns out that you can make all sorts of mistakes and just claim that you were going for a hard read. Whether people believe you is another issue. But if they know less about the game than you do, you can just claim all sorts of stuff. Ike gets launched, Ike gets the tech. Greninja falls with a down air, a little bit of a risky option. Any aerial that sends you falling downwards usually has just enough lag to punish it in Smash Ultimate. So while it's tempting to get down faster, it often leaves you more exposed. And it's actually only gotten more difficult to do since the game was released because people figured out, well, first of all, how to control their characters better. Did Ike not have a double jump? I guess he didn't if he went for the recovery that early. Our next match is going to be between King Dedede and R.O.B. Going to be an incredibly grayscale match going on here. R.O.B. JP is an actual Japanese R.O.B. amiibo, the only difference being the coloration on it. However, as principle, we don't have any amiibo with their default colors in the tournament, which meant that R.O.B. had to go for a different coloration. I chose the American coloration. Dedede is getting just smacked around, having a hard time landing, which normally isn't a problem for... So it's normally not a problem for King Dedede. His airspeed isn't fast, it's actually one of the slowest. But if King Dedede needs to get on the ground, he has many ways of falling onto it. Usually the heavyweights in Smash Ultimate, they have a little bit more of a hard time getting juggled while they're in a combo. And then when they're out of it, they usually have some sort of move, usually neutral air, to be honest. Or you can see their King Dedede's up special Super Dedede jump. A jump so special it had to be named after him. It is incredibly laggy and punishable, however it will get you on the ground. So while King Dedede is a heavy character, that actually means he can survive more hits, and of course there's always a chance the opponent messes up the punish. When he lands the Super Dedede jump, he actually shoots out 2 stars next to him, which makes it a lot harder to, for example, punish his landing with a smash attack. However, I do not advise you use the move in that fashion against anyone with a counter, because it's a very strong move, and when countered, it's still an incredibly strong move to get countered, and it will often kill you. Sort of a double-edged sword there. Stronger moves, when they get countered, they deal more damage back to you. And counters usually aren't seen as a very viable move in competitive settings. However, when you Super Dedede jump, you go so high up that your opponent has plenty of time to figure out where you're going to land and preemptively punish you for it. Dedede going for a drag down, but it looks like Rob was able to get a footstool out of that combo. These amiibo definitely like falling up air onto land and then follow up. I think it's a little bit of a symptom of the training regimen they all went through, in that they were fighting human opponents, and by plural I mean me, and the amiibo all have buffed up stats, which actually made it difficult to fight them, which was, believe it or not, the point, because these amiibo are originally meant to destroy humans. King Dedede canceled the up special there, but when you cancel the up special, it actually has more lag than if you were to just follow through with the move. Again, canceling it, he gets back to the stage before Rob can try to punish him, though. Rob's cornered, only gets hit by a forward air. That's probably the good outcome for Rob, since he was facing death there for a second. King Dedede's up air is a very strong kill move with multi-hits, so when you're hit that high up on the screen... Now, I just said that description out loud, that also applies to Rob's up air, so I guess these characters both have similar up airs, at least in kill potential. Rob trying to land cancel the up air, but falling past the ledge, so he's unable to. Surprisingly, he's not taken any damage this stock yet. There he took 6. King Dedede, will he make it? He does, just barely. It's always humiliating to miss the Super Dedede jump, because if you miss the ledge, you fall down to your death. And Barry, up smash, just too slow to kill King Dedede. 30% is not nearly close enough to kill, but the move also does a lot of damage. King Dedede goes very low. Tries to go for a dash attack. Gets snuffed out by a laser. Rob needs to find a kill quick and have a very good final stock. Otherwise, he's looking to be disqualified from... Not disqualified, just eliminated from the tournament. Takes a back air. King Dedede still at about 150%. Not great for Rob. Forward air off stage. Even worse for Rob. That's going to take his final stock. And now we have Incineroar against Pac-Man. So this is going to be a very tough match for Incineroar. Well, it should be. It's a little weird. In normal tournament play, you'd expect the Pac-Man to be winning here. Over in Amiibo tournaments, usually Incineroar does a lot better, since Pac-Man is more of a technical, tricky character, and Incineroar is more of a hit the opponent in the face until they die character. And Pac-Man lands on his trampoline the 3rd time. That puts him into special fall. That's going to kill him immediately. So in Amiibo tournaments, the traditional script, I guess you could say, is actually inverted. In that the Incineroar Amiibo is actually one of the best Amiibos, since not being able to combo the opponent as thoroughly, having just hits that deal more damage is just better, to be quite honest. Incineroar gets put off stage. He uses double jump. He's not going to be able to make that back. Maybe if he'd landed on Pac-Man's trampoline, but Pac-Man gets to decide where that goes. So it can be incredibly difficult to actually land onto it. Incineroar's forward smash moves him forward just enough to not get hit by a falling fire hydrant. Unsafe aerial on shield that's going to get you grabbed. And a spike for the 2nd stock for Incineroar. Double kicks to the head all around. Pac-Man's back air, Incineroar's forward air. Pac-Man looking like he's going to do something with the fire hydrant, and then not. Subverting audience expectations. Incineroar air dodges to get through Pac-Man, grabs the ledge just in time to not get hit by the fire hydrant. The fire hydrant, I believe, sends you up and away slightly, because if it was a spike, it would be one of the best spikes in the game. So it's actually rather difficult to kill the opponent off stage with a fire hydrant. However, because it's effectively a no-risk option, you'll see a lot of Pac-Mans go for it anyway. Incineroar makes it back. Gets hit up and away by the fire hydrant. And takes Pac-Man down with him. I'd call it a desperation play, but it was the only play he had at that point, and it worked. Next up, we've got Bowser against Cloud. Gonna be on Final Destination for this one. A little bit of visual variety. I guess we got Smash for the last match as well, so it hasn't just been Kalos all episode. Forward smash at the ledge, not killing Cloud yet. However, it was surprisingly close to the range for it to kill. Cloud does have a limit break. Goes for a Clim Hazard. Clim Hazard? Clim Hazard? I think it's Clim Hazard. I don't believe it has a B in it. Its main purpose is actually to recover in a pinch. However, it does have just enough knockback that the amiibo seem to keep finding ways to kill with it. Back throw... no, up throw, actually. Probably should have gone for back throw. Bowser gets the kill with back air anyway. Plays around on the platform too much, takes some unnecessary damage. I suppose no damage is necessary. His shield, I guess... well, Bowser got shield poked by Cloud's fully charged forward smash. That would actually be a situation where using the shield manipulation technique would be useful. It doesn't... and nice parry from Bowser. I didn't think the amiibo normally do that. Even though, from what I hear, there's actually a specific parameter they have for how much you want them to parry. And since the amiibo reactions are incredibly consistent, and I'd swear just a little bit better than an average human's reactions, they can actually parry quite a lot. It took a couple of balance patches before the parrying system was perfected in Smash Ultimate. Granted, it wasn't ever really a massive problem. Even if the game had been stuck on any given patch, the game would have been in an okay state. Obviously, all the patches they did, with maybe a couple errors every here and there, all the patches they did were just strictly beneficial. Especially because most of the patches came out with new characters anyway. As we're going for a forward smash, does not land it. Cloud actually got a grab, which is a little bit hard, well, at least with the timing he used to punish that move of Bowser's. Because if you get it wrong, you get kicked in the head by an enormous turtle, and it's a pretty strong move, which you probably could have figured out just by looking at it. I believe Bowser's legs actually have invincibility during the move as well, so you don't want to be trying to hit Bowser out of it, because it will not work. I mean, I'm sure there are some characters who can with something, but in general, you don't challenge that move. It's a little bit slow to come out, so you usually have enough time to react to it anyway, as long as Bowser's throwing it out haphazardly instead of when you're pressed for options, which is when that move shines. Oh, Bowser goes for a parry on the first hit of forward smash, seemingly learning, but he doesn't get the other two. Cloud has to burn limit break just to get back to the stage. Bowser is at a high percent, but he's also the heaviest character in the game. Did not get spiked by the forward air, able to tech off the stage. You could actually see there, Bowser's faster than you probably think. That forward air takes the game. Bowser's going to be moving on. Cloud's not. Last match of the episode, we're going to be having Ridley against Isabelle. Going to be on Battlefield for this one. Isabelle starting off by showing off 2 turnips. Isabelle's turnips actually aren't randomized like villagers are. She always gets 2 of them. Off stage, she grabs the stage with the fishing rod. A little risky because sometimes if you mistime it, you can grab the opponent or sometimes not the stage at all. But it does stop you from having to bring out your balloon recovery, which I suppose when you have 100% fuel remaining, you're not too great. Parry from Ridley. Got a kill on Isabelle incredibly quick. Isabelle gets Ridley off stage. Ridley's going to be able to recover. Turns out the character with wings has a pretty good recovery. Or at least he has multiple avenues to recover with. Between his multiple mid-air jumps, his side special, and his up special, and of course a good enough airspeed to not have to use every single one every time he recovers, Ridley has options. Also, if he grabs you with the side special, he's probably going to be letting go of you when you're below the stage, and a lot of characters can't make that back. Especially not if you miss the tech. Isabelle does get Ridley. Ridley actually techs on the stage. Kind of a difficult one to tech, simply because you'd have to react to when the Isabelle player is going to let you go. Well, also which direction she's going to throw you. And if she throws you to the left, then you don't need to tech, and you will air dodge to your death, usually. A lot of characters can't survive an unintentional air dodge. Ridley just going hard with a down smash. It seems to have worked. His wings cover a large area. Isabelle goes for a regrab. Ridley doesn't punish it. Ridley going for the grab, getting slingshot in the face for his efforts. Put off stage. And normally Isabelle is actually pretty good at edge guarding. Turns out the slingshot pellets are stronger than you might think. Especially if you get hit with the pellet as it's leaving the slingshot. Most projectiles in the game actually get weaker the farther they travel. So when you get a projectile like Isabelle's slingshot that is fine enough when you hit it at max range, when you hit it at an up front range, it just becomes better. At least in terms of killing. I suppose if you're trying to gimp someone, it would actually become worse. But usually, killing someone is a trade-off for trying. You can see right there, actually, Isabelle hit Ridley with a point-blank slingshot pellet. Isabelle getting launched very close to the blast zone there. Ridley's got Isabelle to the percentage where he should start looking for a kill. Ridley has many moves that can kill. Granted, forward smash, which you saw earlier, probably kills the fastest, but it's one of the hardest to land. Ridley gets caught in a combo, uses a neutral air to get out. And going for a taunt. He might actually be able to back it up, though. Unless Isabelle's able to get a good edge guard off stage. She's just been floating in the range of a random up smash, killing her for about a minute now. Up special, not killing Isabelle, actually hitting the balloons. Isabelle swinging past Ridley's recovery. And getting a tech. Ridley's up special is actually a rather strong hitbox, so I'm surprised that wasn't untechable. And just barely Isabelle floats into the blast zone. That's it for this episode. That's it for this round. So the next video you're going to see is going to be round 2. Until then, though, bye.